Welcome back. This is the final lesson that deals with cybersecurity threats, and in this lesson, we're going to be looking at the threats of pharming, phishing, and social engineering. So let's start with phishing. Phishing is a type of cyber threat that involves sending a user a fake email that is designed to look genuine. This email encourages the user to provide their personal data, either by clicking a link, which directs them to a fake website, or by responding to the email in some way. Now, personal data is more or less bank account details or credit card details, things like that. The key point is that the recipient has to initiate some act before the phishing scam can cause any harm. If suspicious emails are deleted or not opened, then phishing attacks won't generally cause a problem because you're not giving the information to anyone else or clicking a suspicious link. Now, once these perpetrators or cyber criminals have your personal data, they can pretend to be you and use your details to log into your account and perhaps buy products online with your money. And it can also be used to get more personal details from you, such as your address, which then they can use for identity theft and fraud. Now, there are numerous ways to help prevent phishing attacks, and the most common one is to check the spelling and tone of the text in the email. In addition to these, especially if you work in an organization, you should undergo frequent security awareness training to identify common phishing scams. As usual, don't click on any email links, especially from unknown sources. Fake emails can generally be identified through their lack of personalization. So they normally address you as dear customers or dear email person at email.com, things like that. Run anti phishing toolbars on browsers, and these include tablets and mobile phones as well. Don't assume that you're safe if you're using any other device. Regular checks on online accounts are advisable as well as updating passwords on a regular basis because you don't know if you're already part of a phishing scam. Use an up-to-date browser and have a good firewall, especially a combination of desktop firewall, usually software, and a network firewall, usually hardware. These considerably reduce the risk of having pharming and phishing on network computers. So make sure the firewalls are in place. Also be wary of pop-ups and use the browser to block them. If pop-ups get through your defenses, don't click on any button that says cancels or quit, since these can ultimately lead to phishing or pharming websites. The best option is to select the small X in the top right hand corner of the pop-up window, which closes it down, or learn a keyboard shortcut that you can press to shut an active window. Now, there's another term connected to phishing, which is known as spear phishing. This is where the cybercriminal targets specific individuals or companies to gain access to sensitive financial information or industrial espionage, which basically means industrial secrets. Regular phishing is not specific regarding to who the victim is. So it's kind of like, let's just send this email to a million people and see who bites. Spear phishing is when you're targeting a particular fish. Okay, that's all there is to phishing. Let's look at the next cyber threat, which is pharming. Pharming is deliberate. It's malicious code which is installed on a user's computer or perhaps on an infected website. And this code redirects the browser to a fake website without the user's knowledge. Unlike phishing, the user doesn't actually need to take any action. So remember, in phishing, you have to click a link. Here, you don't even know, you just get redirected. Now, the creator of this malicious code can gain personal data, such as bank details from the user or login information. And often the website appears to come from a trusted source and can lead to fraud and identity theft. Now, as usual, since pharming is the installation of malicious code, anti-malware software helps detect it. Anti-malware software will scan the file stored on your computer and will help to find the file that is redirecting you to a fake website, perhaps. It will then quarantine this file and let you delete it. Now, you could also check by looking at the address bar to see if the URL at the top of the screen is the correct one, because the redirected one won't be the genuine URL. Is the site secured using HTTPS? And you can check that by looking for the padlock symbol in the address bar. It's normally on the left-hand side. Does the website look normal, or are the colors, images, and text in the right place? If there is any doubt that the website is fake, you should close the website without entering any particular details. Now, there's another form of pharming attack which works via something called DNS cache poisoning. Normal pharming attacks will be software on your computer and you perhaps can detect it, but this can be a lot more dangerous. Instead of Attacking one individual, DNS cache poisoning can affect entire regions. So how does it work? Well, every time a user types in a URL, their browser connects to something called the DNS. The IP address of the website will then be sent back to the browser. However, if we poison this DNS cache, we change that IP address to a fake one, then anyone that wants to get the genuine website's IP address will be delivered a fake IP address. Now, it's very difficult for individual users to defend against this type of an attack because you're not doing anything wrong. Your browser is trying to get the right IP address, but the actual DNS or domain name server is compromised. Now, it's possible to mitigate against all types of pharming attacks, including DNS cache poisoning. In this case, anti-malware won't work, but all the other ones should generally work. The final threat we're going to look at today is called social engineering attacks. Now, social engineering occurs when a cybercriminal creates a social situation that can lead to a potential victim dropping their guard. And this involves the manipulation of people into breaking their normal security procedures and not following best practice. We target their emotional state and we use that to compromise their ability to judge what is safe and what is not. Now, there are 5 different ways we can create a social engineering attack. And the first one relies on the user's curiosity. And normally we use instant messaging for these type of attacks. Malicious links are embedded into instant messages. For example, we'll say, here's an important software upgrade, click here. This means the user is curious about it. Or we'll say, here's a cat video, something like that. And the user's curious and clicks it and gets themselves into trouble. Scareware, for example, fake antivirus that looks real. This is obviously to do with the user's fear. So pop-up messages that claim that the user's computer is infected with a virus, the user is told that need to download the fake antivirus immediately, deals with fear. And there's lots of different ways we can do that. Emails and phishing scams can be used as well, and this manipulates their trust, their sense of security as well. The user is tricked by the apparent genuineness of an email and opens a link in that particular email. This redirects their browser to a fake website. There's another method called baiting. Here we again look at curiosity. The cybercriminal leaves a malware infected memory stick somewhere where it can be found. The finder picks it up and is curious to see what's in it, plugs it into their computer, and unwittingly downloads malware. And of course, phone calls can also be used, and these rely on fear as well. For example, a IT professional might call you claiming that your device is compromised, or your bank might call you. The user is advised to download some special software, which of course is malware, and then the users give them direct access to their device and later on their personal information. Of course, there are other emotions like love. There are scams like romance scams where somebody pretends to be someone else, builds a relationship with you, and compromises your security in some form or the other. As always, make sure that you're aware of what the latest scams are. Now, there's a great website called scamwatch.au, which is an Australian government's website, which lists quite common scam, including gambling scams to romance scams to greed scams, all sorts of things. The whole idea for social engineering attacks is based on the exploitation of human emotions. And the 3 most common ones we already mentioned are fear, greed, or curiosity, empathy, and trust. And generally, there is no hacking involved here. The user willingly allows the cyber criminal to have access to their computer. And this allows them to download malicious software or redirect them to fake websites. And the user is generally rushed into making very rash decisions. So do pause the video and have a look at how fear, greed, or curiosity, or empathy and trust can be impacted in social engineering attacks. Generally, there are 4 stages to these. Stage 1, the victims are identified and information about the victim gathered, and then a method of attack is decided. Stage 2, at this stage, the victim is being targeted either through email or phone calls or instant messaging, Trojan horse, and so on. It all depends on who the victim is. So if it's a company or an individual, both can be at risk. Stage 3, the attack on the victim is now executed, allowing the cyber criminal to obtain information or cause disruption, which they've decided in stage 1. Stage 4 is when the cyber criminal has decided they have what they wanted, and then they remove all traces of the malware to cover their tracks. Generally, people think that only individuals are targeted, but companies can be targeted for their data too. Cybercriminal could perhaps make contact with the company and try to manipulate and deceive employees into providing key information that can be used to hack the company's systems. So what are the ways you can defend yourself against these? Well, quite clearly, awareness of common scams is one way, and having different levels of access can also prevent these attacks, especially if you're a company. So if your employees don't have access to all the systems, or you've got things like two-factor authentication, biometrics in place, that can prevent as well. But generally, if you are using username and password type systems, they can easily be compromised through social engineering attacks. That's all there is to these cyber threats. Hopefully, you can answer the following questions. What is meant by phishing? What is meant by pharming? What is the difference between both? Describe the 5 types of common social engineering threats. Which 3 common human emotions are exploited in social engineering attacks? Describe the 4 stages of a social engineering attack. As usual, the answers are somewhere in the videos, so do watch it again if you are stuck with a question, or you can, of course, post your questions in the comments and I'll get back to you. That's all for now. And with this video, we finish the area of cybersecurity threats. We're going to start looking at the solution side of things in more depth from the next lesson onwards.